2025. This is what we play for, ladies and gentlemen. Il Pape, Pope Francis, tragically left this world last year. So the Conclave is in, and it is time to select our next Pope.
We out here.
So Dan, this is the most exciting time of year for all Catholics, obviously, and there's a lot of great contenders this year. Who do you like the most? Now, obviously, coming in at the number one spot, we have Cardinal Pietro Parolin of Italy. Parolin is a fresh 70 years old who currently occupies the position of Vatican Secretary of State, a seasoned Vatican diplomat with over a decade as Secretary of State. Parolin is seen as a continuity candidate, embodying the institutional stability of the Church. Now, let's break down strengths and weaknesses. Strengths, obviously, we have a deep diplomatic experience, strong Vatican insider, and he's multilingual. Weaknesses? Now, he may be perceived too entrenched in the Vatican bureaucracy. Our draft projection, top pick for those favoring continuity and diplomatic prowess.
Okay, that's Pietro Parolin. All right, so for number two, we have Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines, age 67, so shave off 3 years from Parolin there. Position prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples. Draft profile, charismatic, media savvy. Tagle is viewed as a bridge between traditional and progressive factions with a strong emphasis on evangelization. Strengths, engaging communicator, strong pastoral experience, represents the growing Asian Catholic demographic. Eyebrows raised there. Weaknesses, may face resistance from conservative elements within the Church. Draft projection, high pick for those seeking a global and pastoral focus.
And in the number three spot, we have Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, also of Italy, age 69. Now, Zuppi occupies the position of Archbishop of Bologna, president of the Italian Episcopal Conference. Draft profile, known for his work with the Sant'Egidio community and peace negotiations, Zuppi is a pastoral leader with heart for social justice. Now, let's break down strengths and weaknesses. Strengths, we know that he has a strong pastoral and social justice credentials, close to Pope Francis's vision. Weaknesses, he's sometimes seen with limited international experience. Draft projection, solid pick for those emphasizing pastoral care and social outreach.
Now, Ben, I know we have to be neutral here, but Zuppi is my choice.
Zuppi's your choice?
I think so, yeah. These are, I've only known three candidates, so maybe Pizza Balla coming in at number four will change. Okay, number four, Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa. Again, you can guess where he's from. Italy. Age 60, position Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. Draft profile, a Franciscan with deep experience in interfaith dialogue, especially in the Middle East. Pizzaballa, I can't believe that's his name, brings a unique perspective to papacy. Strengths, expert in interreligious relations, youthful energy at a fresh 60, and experience in conflict zones. Weaknesses, less known with a broader college of cardinals. Ooh, that could hurt. Draft projection, sleeper pick with potential for high impact.
Yes, don't let that name fool you, ladies and gentlemen. Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa is in fact a real person and not a racist Italian stereotype made up by us on this podcast. I know that's confusing. So, coming in at the number five spot, we have Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo Bisongu of the Democratic Republic of Congo. This gentleman's coming in at a fresh 65 years of age. He is the Archbishop of Kinshasa. Draft profile, a vocal advocate for social justice and environmental issues, Bisongu represents the dynamic growth of the African Church. Strengths, being a strong voice on social issues, represents the vibrant African Catholic community. Now, some weaknesses, as he may be viewed as too progressive by traditionalists. Draft projection, mid-round pick with potential to energize the global south.
All right, moving on to number six, we have Cardinal Peter Turkson from Ghana, age 76, current position, Chancellor of the Pontifical Academies of Sciences and Social Sciences. His draft profile, a seasoned Vatican official with a focus on social justice and environmental issues. Turkson has long been considered papable. Strengths, deep experience in Vatican administration, strong advocate for social issues. Weaknesses, age may be a factor. Some see him as a candidate for the previous conclave. Ooh. Draft projection, veteran pick with a wealth of experience.
Now let's move on to the number 7 spot. Cardinal Anders Borelius of Sweden. Age 75, but don't let that fool you. This is the Bishop of Stockholm. Draft profile, the first Swedish cardinal. Aberelius brings a unique perspective from a minority Catholic country, emphasizing ecumenism and dialogue. Strengths, experience in interfaith dialogue, represents the church's universality. Weaknesses, limited global recognition. Draft projection, Aberelius is a dark horse pick with potential to surprise. Okay, so Dan, let's get into it. We have our players. Now let's talk about the game. So, draft strategy insights. We have to discuss what are the pressing issues for the Catholic faith at this time. So, as always, there is a battle between continuity versus change. The College of Cardinals faces a choice between continuing Pope Francis's reforms or shifting towards a more traditional approach. Global representation. Candidates from Asia and Africa reflect the church's growing demographics in these regions, and of course, as always, age considerations. While experience is valued, there's a trend towards younger candidates who can serve longer papacies, much like the show The New Pope, or The Young Pope with Jude Law.
All right, let's just dive into final thoughts here. Just wrapping everything up, the 2025 Papal Conclave presents a diverse field of candidates, each bringing unique strengths to the table. Whether the College of Cardinals opts for continuity, reform, or a balance of both, the next Pope will shape the future direction of the Catholic Church. I don't know, Ben, who are you leaning towards?
Look, we've got a lot of strong candidates when we go here, and we have to think that, this is the choice of the Pope has to be a reflection of the world we live in today. So while Pope Francis was seen as a reformer, as a voice of change, and a moving towards a more progressive, modern Catholic Church, there's also a lot of indicators showing that that is not what is wanted in this age of polarization. So we actually have a lot of hunger for a more conservative shift backwards to the Catholic Church's days of old, which would include, of course, racism and pedophilia. Now, who would we want to shepherd us into this new era? Obviously, I think Parolin is the favorite. I think that is correct. I like him. He's a strong contender. He's Italian. And as much as we are going to hear about this, we'd love to see someone from the global south, an African pope, an Asian pope. Obviously, we just had our first South American pope. People love to hit up the classics, and Catholics are racist as shit. So the idea that there's going to be an African pope, I still think is a long shot. So Parolin is a smart money. But I also want to just pose to the audience a possibility of a name that did not make it to our list, but is a favorite on right-wing Twitter right now, and that is Cardinal Robert Serra, Prefect Emeritus of the Congregation for Divine Worship in Guinea. Cardinal Serra is 79 years old for a starter pick, height 5'11", and with some interesting stats. He's a defender of traditional liturgy and Global South hero for conservative Catholics. So he's got some interesting strengths, appeals to traditionalist voters who want a hard pivot from Francis, and speaks with serious gravitas, powerful veteran locker room presence. Now, weaknesses, of course, age is a serious concern. That's 79 years. We worry about longevity. And those questions will be hounding Serra throughout this conclave. Also, the obvious, he is very divisive for the cardinals who prioritize unity. But the thing is, right now, Cardinal Serra is a favorite among the Matt Walshes and Tim Pools of the world. Why? Because he says some really great racist shit. So he is one to look out for in this year's Pope Watch.
And for our football fans out there, if you want to think about Sarah really like in comparison here to the NFL, think of Tom Brady in Tampa. Could pull off a
Yes.
miracle, but Father Time really is looming there.
Who do you got, Dan?
Zupi's my guy. I'm interested in Arborealis.
Yeah.
Dark horse pick, got to go for him. When does the conclave start? Are they already sequestered?
I think they are, yeah, they are already sequestered. So, as anybody who has watched the major motion picture Conclave, you would know that they are sequestered from all outside contact, though obviously information has been known to leak in years past, and they make their decision by a bizarre ritual of writing names on little scrolls and then reading them off.
And then when whether they have a majority or not, they burn those scrolls. And if it's dark smoke, it's no consensus. White smoke is we have a new pope, right?
Habemus papam, as is
Yeah.
said in the Latin.
So by the time we release this podcast
We
episode,
may have a new pope.
yeah, God willing.
We may have. What is actually interesting. So just to take a look back at history, now conclaves can vary greatly in their length. The longest conclave, lasting from 1268 to 1271, a duration of nearly 3 years, about 33 months. So this was after the death of Pope Clement IV. The cardinals met in Viterbo, but couldn't agree on a successor. It got so bad that the townspeople literally locked the cardinals in, reduced their rations, and even removed the roof to encourage a decision. Outcome, of course, they finally elected Pope Gregory X. Now, shortest conclave. There have been several conclaves that have lasted less than a day, but two famous quick ones. So, 1503, the October conclave, after the death of Pope Pius III, duration just a few hours, elected Pope Julius II, the warrior pope, who commissioned the Sistine Chapel ceiling from Michelangelo. And of course, the conclave of 1939, after Pope Pius the 11th. Duration less than 2 days, electing, you know it, Pope Pius the 12th. As you can see, there's a lot of wiggle room here. We could be looking at a few weeks, we could be looking at a few months, we could be looking at a few years. Now, obviously, the many, many years conclaves are definitely a thing of the past. We don't like to see those often, especially in this age of the internet. But I think there's a lot for these cardinals to discuss, and I would be surprised, Dan, if I saw this conclave taking any less than 2 weeks. What do you think?
I'm gonna go for a year. I want to go long.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. 1 year.
1 year. Yeah, give it maybe about 50 weeks from now. We'll have our next vote. Can't wait, honestly.
And this has been Villain for All Seasons inaugural Hope Watch 2025.
I did want to talk about Conclave because I just watched it. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was good. I really liked it. Stanley Tucci is hilarious. He's so sassy.
He's a fancy little man. He's like a fancy Domfa. Perfect role for him. And got, I mean, talk about great advertising for that movie to come out on streaming like
Yeah,
a month ago. Perfect for him.
little on the nose there.
Suspicious, really.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, everyone's blaming JD Vance, but no one's looking into the producers of Conclave of who might be responsible.
You know who I thought did a really great job is the really conservative Italian archbishop or cardinal. His real name is Sergio Castellitto. But yeah,
Yeah,
was fantastic. It was Isabella Rossellini. I knew it was her. Everybody, great performance. Ray Fiennes, of course, is
always fantastic.
yeah.
I forgot about this bit of news. The Trump plan for child incentives for
Yeah.
maybe what
They're
was all of it?
offering.
So it's
Go ahead.
5,000 a pop, right? Each baby you pop out.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, of course, the best
Pre-tax, I'm
one.
sure.
Yeah,
When you actually get that money, it'll be what, 3,200 or something?
yeah, something like that.
Once. Yeah. But anyway, let's go.
Maybe they give it to you in a big check.
Yeah, hopefully.
You get a medal for the sixth kid.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And then more education on menstrual cycles. That was another
What?
note. Yeah, yeah, I think that was no, I swear, like the line item. was menstrual cycles. It wasn't like women's reproductive health. I swear it was menstrual cycles.
Yeah, because that's what's stopping people from having babies is just
Yeah.
women aren't good enough at tracking their period. That's got to be it.
Yeah. I think this is really just advice for guys. It's like, listen,
Yeah.
guys, like if it's that time of the month, like just it's not gonna work. You weren't joking about the metal. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so yeah, 6 kids. So if you spend basically a decade at least
Oh yeah.
pregnant or with a newborn, at the end you get a shitty medal from the White House.
I hate this alliteration. Some of the pro-natalist proposals that the White House is said to be considering are practical in nature. Okay. Issuing a baby bonus of 5,000, reserving 30% of Fulbright scholarships for applicants who are parents or at least married, and offering classes to women to help them identify their most fertile times in their menstrual cycle. The last one, helping women identify their most fertile times in the menstrual cycle, seems like the most government waste to me. It's the
Yeah,
easiest thing to find that out. They should be
there's
doing
fu
a pre-ovulation test.
yeah, there's fucking apps for that.
Yeah. Free
Like the disrespect, they really do just have the height of contempt for the population. It's so disrespectful. It's like, here, you pigs, take some more slop, have a little, a little $5,000 check.
Yeah.
Not to mention it's like, okay, so you'll be less in debt from the hospital bill that you get for having the baby.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so yeah, knock 5,000 off the what, $15,000 bill, assuming
Uh,
you don't have a C-section and everything goes well.
do you think there's a bit of malice in this? Do you think it's tongue in cheek?
It feels like it.
Yeah.
It feels like they're trolling us.
Yeah.
Or just, yeah, that they, it does sound like something that comes straight from the mouth of Trump because, as we know, there's no one has greater contempt for Trump voters than Trump himself. Like, he really does not respect these people. He doesn't like them. He doesn't want to be around them. I think I've said it on the show, though. Like, I really think he's created his own hell
Yeah.
because the world that he occupied before he went into politics was the world he wanted to be in, which is Hollywood and, you know, New York high society. And MAGA took that away from him because those people hate him now. And he got all these, working class, middle America people, broadly speaking, and they're pigs to him. They're dogs, and he hates them. This sounds like such a like fuck you pay me mentality.
Something that you brought up before the show started was that you think that MAGA has turned on Trump. So I think this might be a good segue into that. And I want to hear your belief behind this.
Well, I think the good example would be to talk about the spat that's come from the last 2 weeks or so that started with the Dave Smith Douglas Murray debate that
Yeah.
happened on Joe Rogan.
Hmm.
So it went from there, which has been, if you're on the internet, you've heard about this. I didn't listen to the debate because I think it would have been a huge waste of time, but I saw clips of it. And Dave Smith's a comedian and a podcaster who's also an American Jew who's been very outspoken in his criticism of the Israeli government and the US government and also, the genocide that's happening in Gaza. And Douglas Murray is I guess, journalist, neoconservative writer who's also a long history of being a huge cheerleader for any actions taken by the Israeli government, right? So that, Murray challenged him to a debate. And lo and behold, on the debate between the two of them, Murray, like any good Zionist would, didn't show up to actually debate the issue. Because the truth of the matter is, there isn't any good debate. There's no good points to make if you're on the side of the Israeli government at this time. There's not any argument you can win. So Murray got on there and basically scolded Dave Smith and scolded Joe Rogan, which I think Joe Rogan listeners correctly took as, an insult to their intelligence of this smug English prick just telling them that they need to shut up and listen to the experts being Douglas Murray. That's where the famous or now viral thing of like, have you even been there? Like, because
Uh,
Dave Smith hasn't been to Israel and Douglas Murray has, even though we know that like Douglas Murray went there like on probably a fucking glorified birthright trip. It's like anytime you hear from like an American journalist who's embedded with the United States military in Iraq or anything like that, it's like you're a propaganda
yeah,
agent at that point. So like
it was very
the
clear.
idea of yeah, going there and seeing the border crossings or even seeing the West Bank or even Gaza, if you're there in tow with the Israeli military, you're probably even less qualified to talk on it than someone who's actually never been there, right? That started it, and then what was, and Douglas Murray's really supposed to be the big guns for defending Israel and defending Zionism, and he looked like an absolute fool in doing so because really, again, all he could do was finger wag and scold Rogan and his listeners for not having more people like him on, right? And then the funny thing was last week, in the wake of all this hate that Douglas Murray's getting, they had to bring out the really big guns. They had to take the nuclear option, which was our man from the north, Jordan Peterson,
Doctor.
the good doctor himself. And I don't know, maybe we should pull it up. Have you seen the clip of him talking about this?
Unfortunately, yeah. You shared that breaking points.
Yeah.
You also set that conversation up, but it poked up and made itself manifest in that conversation. And the issue is, how do you identify the psychopathic pretenders? And it's even worse now, and then make a barrier, right? Now,
Right.
the right was calling for the left to do that for decades,
Right.
and they didn't, and they couldn't. And the left is not good at drawing barriers, partly temperamentally. The right is somewhat better, but there's no shortage of monstrosity there. And and so then the question is, how do you draw the line? And that's kind of what I was, because I've been watching these right wing, they're not right wing, these psychopathic types manipulate the edge of the conservative movement for
Right.
their own gain.
Right.
And a lot of that's cloaked in anti-Semitic guise. There's plenty of anti-Semitism on the left too, by the way. So it's not unique to the right.
Well,
but
particularly now.
yes, particularly now.
Right.
And so, you've let your curiosity guide you, your curiosity and your desire for knowledge, this quest, you've let that guide you as a podcaster. And by the way, I'm trying to work through exactly the same sort of thing. How do you know, given your radical increase in stature over the last 10 years, how do you know when your curiosity and even your skepticism about the fact that things aren't the way that people say they are, because that's certainly been demonstrated in the last 10 years, how should anyone decide what guardrails to put up? Like, what do you look for? Do you have a conceptual system worked out for that? Like,
It's so obvious what's happening.
So that was that.
Talk about someone who has like created a personal hell for themselves is Jordan Peterson. Like I feel like he's got to be one of the most unhappy men on earth. Like every time you see him when he's going on one of these diatribes, he looks like he's on the verge of tears.
Yeah. And I mean, he often does cry, and I mean, that's fine. The For our listeners, the one thing that you can't see listening to this, but is so painful while watching, is that he is for I would say for most of the monologue there, he has his eyes closed and his you can see some veins on the side of his temples, and he's very, very much searching for the right words. And as you can tell, he's very much not concise.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we've been talking about this for ages, and it's like, I don't know what new thing there is to say about it really, but we have to keep talking about it because it's still this part of our fucking life is like, there is no excuse for what is happening. And you see these people who are trying to justify the actions of this government just like tie themselves in knots and just yeah like foaming at the mouth, fucking blood vessels bursting in their eyeballs, trying to be like, no, 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 you have to let them do whatever you can. And they have nothing. And that I think that is where this break in MAGA is happening because people are like, people aren't stupid and you're seeing this rift come between the more neocon pro-Israel element of MAGA, and then just normal MAGA people who are like, wait a minute, I thought this was all about America first. Why the fuck do I have to listen to this shit? Why do I have to, keep hearing these justifications for it? To the point where you have Jordan Peterson coming on there, nearly crying, saying that anybody who doesn't support Israel is a psychopath. And also that Joe Rogan, for listening to any of them, he's being duped and led down the primrose path, which, like, in fairness, Joe Rogan's pretty trickable on a lot of things. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, persuadable, but like I also think he inherently leans that way. Right. However, you did not watch the Smith Murray debate, if you will.
I've watched clips of it. Like, I've
Yeah.
watched enough to know what it was
Yeah,
and heard commentary on it. And like, yeah, it's mostly just everything I've heard is like Dave Smith will make a good, solid point, which again, you don't need to be Norman Finkelstein to make a cogent argument against what's happening. You just have to have eyes
the
and, watch the news. And Douglas Murray's not there to debate the issue. He's just there to scold them.
I didn't watch the full debate between them, but I did watch a clip before the podcast today, which was the famous the infamous "Where have you been?" or "You
Yeah.
haven't been there," rather
Yeah.
moment. But did you see that whole exchange of
Yeah.
what caused it? Yeah, so it was about the border crossings and Murray believing that the boarding crossings were justified, one, and that there has actually been plentiful, not his words, but that was suggested, amounts of aid that had been shipped through the boarding crossings since 2005, I believe. So again, like that was
Yeah.
this
Which,
point, like,
which
wait,
is just demonstrably false. It's
right.
absolute
Yeah,
bullshit.
yeah,
It's not true. Every aid organization on earth says the opposite.
yeah.
And then you have someone like Douglas Murray going, I'm an expert, you're not, shut up.
And again, I'm willing to really acknowledge that. Well, no, his argument is that they don't want to do this. They don't want to have to be searching through bags of flour.
Mhm.
Because again, he goes back to Hamas and that, oh, well, Hamas just uses this to make missiles that will eventually strike Israel.
And that apparently all of Hamas are like these,
I
fat
can't believe it.
gourmands who
Yeah,
are
yeah.
just, living large off all the flour they're keeping for themselves. I think it's funny that this has come through, Rogan.
Rogan, as you probably saw in that exchange, did push back a lot on Murray.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that's something that's interesting about this rift that we're seeing happening is Rogan played this very pivotal role in Trump getting elected this time, I think. I think that's fair to say that
Yeah.
his endorsement probably did mean a lot. Him propping up Elon Musk over the last several years helped a lot. It's Trump being on the show definitely helped him because he did a good job. He looked good on it or whatever. And it's interesting to see that like Rogan is part of maybe this movement kind of unwinding in real time. Because you have someone like Douglas Murray or now Jordan Peterson on a show that really is what it is because it's a rejection of the so-called experts of the legacy media. Like that's something you could say for all podcasts writ large and, other forms of alternative media is this rejection of people like Douglas Murray. People were sick of them. And Rogan very singularly, like on another level. And so because of that, Rogan's let a lot of bullshit slide. I'm not saying again, I don't know if he's always a bad faith actor, but he's definitely been pretty fucking gullible for certain things. I think Elon Musk especially. City and I tried to listen to the Tim Dillon episode with Rogan. We got through about 10 minutes of it because Rogan mentioned how great Elon Musk was like 15 times. Like you could like if you did it as a drinking game, you'd be shit-faced in 5 minutes. But yeah, having someone like Murray come on there and scold someone like Rogan and, by extension, scolding his audience, which a lot of them are, male MAGA supporting people, like it really flies in the face of like the whole MAGA movement and people and like what was 2016 if not a rejection of experts of the meritocracy technocratic kind of politics that Barack Obama and then Hillary Clinton was offering. People hated that. People were tired of that nerd shit. And then now you have this friction between that and then also it's like, okay, well, if you're going to be this, you also have to be full-throated supporter of Israel.
Yeah.
And anyone who goes, why? You go, shut up. I'm the expert. You're not. You don't understand it.
I mean,
And
worse, you're
also,
a psychopath.
yeah, and you're a psychopath if you don't. I mean, where like the it's really crazy to see where the argument has gone now because in a way, like I feel like the Zionist argument is has lost in the court of public opinion. Like people do not like Israel overall, like in America. Your average person does not like the actions, does not approve of what's going on, and definitely doesn't think that, you know, taxpayer money should be funding this genocide at the very least. So you see Zionism really flailing and really clutching at straws on one hand, but then also is so much more emboldened on the other hand because of what the Trump administration is doing of the massive crackdowns coming. So it's this weird mix where like the argument has become so much more desperate, but there's also way less of a burden of proof, a burden to construct a good argument because they can say whatever they want and they'll get away with it, right? I think normal people don't like it. Normal people don't like what they're seeing, whether you're MAGA or you're liberal. And I think that that friction is really starting to show itself. Like this has been going around Twitter and from a lot of like MAGA accounts that I've seen with real disgust. So this was a tweet. The Misfit Patriot wrote, I'm okay with as many dead kids as it takes to stop Hamas. And then responding, there's Tenacious Girl 7. I'm with you, Misfit Patriot. I don't care what it takes to eliminate the threat to Israel. It could be a million kids. I don't care. Obviously, that is just beyond reprehensible.
You don't think it's
Um,
tongue in cheek?
it's a sick joke
Yeah.
if it is. And Tenacious Girl 7 has a I Heart Israel
Oh,
uh,
okay.
emojis
Yeah.
there. But I've seen a surprising amount of right-wing like MAGA accounts posting a screenshot of that and talking about how disgusting it is.
Oh, okay.
And for, you know, first of all, good, better late than never. Anybody coming over to the right side of history, I'm happy for, you know, people to find their way here no matter what. Yeah, I don't know exactly where this goes, but this is showing some real holes in the organization because you can only attach yourself to this genocidal entity for so long before people are starting to get sick of it already.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to just press on a little bit. Like, what do you think could happen here? Is it Republicans losing possibly the House or the Senate and the midterms? I mean, I guess that's the only real consequence I can think of. But I just wonder if you're going to
I
see
don't
a shift of voters.
I don't know. I don't know because, well, when it comes to the Israel issue, Democrats aren't any fucking better.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders, who's supposedly the best, still won't call it a fucking genocide, still says Israel has the right to defend itself. So there's no proper opposition from either of the two main parties.
Yeah, Bernie demeans protest against
Yeah,
Israel. Protesters even. Yeah.
yeah, it's really sick. So what it does in the immediate, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a very real possibility that we might see, you know, the full eradication of the Palestinian people before we see a meaningful change. It might have to be history later to judge these people. I hope to live to see the day that some of these people actually get put on trial for what they've done, some sort of Nuremberg 2.0. I'm not holding my breath in the immediate. I mean, I think it's very possible that the Republicans are going to lose the House or the Senate or both in the midterm just because it's chaos right now. I mean,
It's
this
great
is,
to be an oppositional party. You don't have to do anything. You look
yeah,
good by the other party fucking up.
yeah.
I think that might be a good segue into that woman. I don't really know the full story. I just know some of the captions I was reading on Instagram. But there's this woman being chased in southern Brooklyn after apparently protesting against Itamar Ben-Gvir, who was speaking at a synagogue. I've heard that she was not at the protest. It was just assumed she was at the protest.
I haven't looked into it much. I just, obviously the Zionist line for supporting it, which you see from, that line of the internet is like the people who are like, good, this bitch should be protested like that, should be intimidated. And
Yeah.
because, the line is, oh, they were going out and harassing people at a synagogue who, harassing people at a place of worship. It's just some nice Jews who wanted to worship in peace. It's the same thing for what was it, at Yale,
Yeah.
where it was these poor students just wanted to attend a lecture. They
Yeah.
just
There,
wanted
there was no mention of who was speaking at that lecture.
when it's like, yeah, the literal devil is giving that lecture. Like what was said in that lecture, I wonder.
Yeah.
Just him talking about how much I mean, yeah, and for anyone listening who doesn't know about Itamar Ben-Gvir, just, take a quick look at his greatest hits and tell me if that sounds like that was a simple lecture. I mean, this is a guy who really makes the likes of Netanyahu and Smotrich and really anybody in the Israeli government right now, like even in the Likud party, makes them look pretty tame. Ben-Gvir was refused service in the IDF because he was too fucking extreme. Like, try to imagine what that looks like of being too much of a freak to serve in that fucking Nazi army. So yeah, that's the line, right? They were just at a synagogue. It's just students who wanted to attend a lecture at their school that they pay for. It's like being like, I just wanted to attend this speech in Munich in the early 30s, like without mentioning who's giving that speech. It's really sick. And yeah, I mean, it goes back to again the state of Zionism right now, where they're flailing and trying to convince, sway public opinion, but they're also emboldened in this new way. I mean, that video of the girl being followed by like it looks like a couple hundred men.
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be, okay, the most conservative estimate, I would say there's 20, no, I'd say there's 50, 50.
50,
That's
yeah.
that's the most conservative.
That's terrifying for any person.
Yeah. And there's
And
one
yeah,
cop following her.
yeah, and you just have these bloodthirsty freaks chanting death to Arabs. I mean, yeah, this is the thing, though. This is where we're at.
Well, that's the point. I want to ask you, like, you think that there is this still this attempt to influence public opinion. What are some of the stories that you have heard to influence that public opinion? Because they've been pretty, well, I haven't heard any for a long time.
Well, I mean, I think the big ones are like Douglas Murray,
Yeah.
and then Jordan Peterson. It's pretty fucking sad if those are the heavy hitters they have.
I was just gonna say, has anyone think that Murray and or Peterson won those debates?
There were people saying that Murray beat Dave Smith. That was some serious cope going on. I mean, I don't know if you saw the day after the Douglas Murray episode came out, and he was just getting completely shit on by everybody was making fun of him, right?
Yeah.
Because also, if you're a Rogan fan, who are you going to side with?
Yeah.
You, you're going to side with Rogan. But yeah, the day after it came out, Trump put out a truth that was like, buy my friend Douglas Murray's book. It's a great
No.
book. Yeah, he
Uh,
put out it, which didn't come from Trump. I'm sure Trump, I don't know if Trump's ever met him, but that was someone in his orbit, which is like, we got to do some damage control to make people think that Douglas Murray's cool.
so Trump is
Which
clearly still captured by the neoconservative
Yeah. So I think there's attempts like that. Obviously, they're still trying to do it in Hollywood by, blaming Rachel Ziegler or whatever the fuck her name was for that shitty movie tanking. The Hasbar is everywhere, but it's so naked and it's so desperate at this point that I don't think anybody buys it. Anybody who wasn't already on board, right?
Um,
They're not changing any opinions at this point, I don't think. Because really, the real psychopaths in this situation are the people who could still look at what Israel is doing and say that it's justified. Because you're either lying to yourself on just the most deep level that you possibly could. You're really going to the depths of your soul to tell yourself some sort of bullshit lie to make this justifiable.
What makes me wonder,
Or you're a really, really, really bad racist person. It's like,
well, it just made me think like even if I was a supporter of Israel, if someone was coming to protest my synagogue, right, or
mhm.
whatever house of worship, right, my reaction would not be to, hey, gang of guys, let's go chase down this woman.
I mean, I think avowed Zionists are bloodthirsty freaks, but I'm sure that wouldn't be the reaction from every Zionist synagogue. But again, knowing who Itamar Ben-Gvir is,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a
the
great.
kind of people that would attend a lecture from him are the bloodthirstiest freaks of the movement.
Yeah, and I'm sure
So,
that further encouraged coming out of that speech, right? I'm sure that
mhm.
you're already here, and that just cranked it up a level.
Yeah, we're very lucky that woman didn't get fucking lynched in the street. Which, by the way, if that was happening in like the West Bank, she would have, because that's how those people operate with complete impunity. But they're starting again because of the deportations, because of the crackdowns on student protests. These people are emboldened and they're going to keep feeling more and more emboldened. And they're also going to get probably as more and more people hate them, but they have more and more free reign to do what they want, given by the Trump administration. I think moments like this are just going to get more common, and they're going to look uglier and uglier.
So you think if you get this sizable group of MAGA voters who are against Israel, the war, etc., that Trump could eventually say, "Okay, I'm sick of this," like he's doing with Ukraine. Israel can't do this anymore.
One would hope so. I mean, he's already kind of postured about that a little bit. The thing is, though, he's in real deep because of, the money that he
Yeah,
got from Miriam Edelson. He knows where his bread is buttered this time around.
yeah.
And also, always the question with Trump, and especially in this term, is like, how much is he actually doing in there? I can't tell. I can't, people want to say it's his grand plan, but a lot of this clearly is coming from, the Stephen Millers and that like from within his administration. So who
Yeah.
fucking knows?
I know this is a worthless argument, and we talk about it only on occasion, but if this was Harris, if I'm honest with you, I don't see too much of a difference. I don't see the deportations or the threats happening. Then again, I just don't know because the election of Harris would have meant that there was not a sizable enough voter base that was dissatisfied with the current policy towards the Israeli-Palestine conflict, right?
Yeah.
So basically, that they would feel no need to have guardrails.
Yeah, exactly. There wouldn't be the same pushback happening from the left, the
Yeah,
fake left, as we
yeah,
call them. So yeah, I don't know. Probably you wouldn't have the deportations. It doesn't really matter to me that much, just because you would still have the crackdowns on free speech happening on college campuses, in different ways. And people would still, I think the death toll in Gaza would be exactly the same.
yeah. Also, still no need to have any primaries. Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe that's a good segue into this Kneecap. I want to say it like you've never heard of them before. You guys have all seen the what Kneecap did, the Irish rap trio.
Yeah.
Coachella.
Yeah, I mean, they've been really outspoken against the Israeli genocide, as are, for obvious reasons, a lot of the nation of Ireland, very anti-Israel, anti-occupation, anti-genocide. You could wonder why. And yeah, at Coachella they had a lot of signaling, but the one that's been getting all the press is them very rudely putting "fuck Israel" in big words behind them on the stage, right?
Yeah, Free Palestine under it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing some of their previous shows where they're pretty hardcore about it. I mean, one member of the group, DJ Provi, was holding up a Hezbollah flag. DJ Provi was holding up a Hezbollah flag. They have gotten a lot of press, and because of this Coachella performance, Sharon Osbourne of Ozzy Osbourne's wife fame, of the Osbourne TV show fame, appealed to some government body to have their visas to perform revoked, of course. But then I think, and someone else, if it wasn't Osborne, also wanted to have them investigated for some kind of foreign government funding. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I saw Sharon Osbourne's tweet and I started reading it, but it was I mean, we've talked about this before. They really need to bring back the Max character because like her tweet is like a chapter of a book. It's so
Yeah.
long. I got bored reading it. And also it was like, who the fuck are you, Sharon Osbourne? Like fucking 200-year-old millionaire wife. Like fuck off.
Yeah, why
Uh
insert yourself into the
Like, why are we hearing from you? It's so
Yeah,
weird. It's such a weird world we live in where someone like Sharon Osbourne, who I haven't thought about in probably 15 years,
yeah.
comes out and is like full-throatedly against this Irish rap group. Oh yeah, yeah. And Kneecap responded, Sharon Osbourne should listen to War Pigs.
I remember something else Kneecap said was like the real crime is obviously the genocide. It's not us telling the truth.
Oh yeah, and to your point, I believe they are being investigated in this country under some anti-terrorism act. And probably in the United States too. I mean, I think this is part of Hasbara too. Anything that keeps the conversation on what this band said rather than, the execution that happened 2 weeks ago of ambulance drivers and burying them and like, anything that distracts from the war crimes, even if it's people protesting the war crimes, I think is to the benefit of of the Zionist movement, so they're happy to talk about anything because also like Kneecap was not the only group at Coachella.
But they're basically the only one remembered at this point.
Yeah. Well, because they did it in the coolest way.
Yeah,
It
I
has
mean,
been
even
funny.
Fox News is talking about them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been funny on Twitter seeing all these like old pundits being like, I will never attend Coachella. And it was like, okay. It's like
Yeah.
you're 70. You shouldn't be attending Coachella anyway. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
too old to go to Coachella. Like not, that's not a good threat.
I definitely feel too old for music festivals. We should talk about that judge getting arrested quickly.
Yeah, yeah. What was the story on that?
Well, so yeah, it was a judge in Wisconsin who allegedly helped a undocumented migrant evade ICE. I don't know if there are any
Right.
crimes associated with this undocumented person, but yeah, that was why they arrested her. I don't know if this is precedent setting or not. If it is, they must really think, by they, I mean the Republicans, must really think that the Democrats are never going to get back into power. Because why would you again set why would you set this precedent if you don't think it's going to be used against you at some point? The pendulum always swings back.
Yeah.
But maybe again, maybe they're convinced it's not going to.
Yeah, and I mean, in a lot of ways, history would, tell us that the Democrats probably wouldn't wield the power in this way, and they would rather brag about the fact that they don't. Like after all these precedents
Oh
get
yeah.
set, you could see, Pete Buttigieg becoming president and being like, well, I could do this, but I'm not going to because it's not constitutional. And it's like, all right, well, what the fuck's the point? Why do we go through any of this if you're
But
not
we
going to
were
fucking
right
bring
on
it
that
back?
that Israeli policy. You know,
What?
it's like, but we were right on the Israeli policy. You know,
Yeah.
again, they'll keep all the shit we don't want. It's painful. Okay, hold on.
Yeah, exactly. People will still get like extradited to El Salvador.
Yeah,
Um, they just won't do any cool shit.
I'll just read from this New York Times article and we can react. Federal authorities arrested the judge, Hannah C. Dugan, of the Milwaukee County Circuit Court on suspicion that she intentionally misdirected federal agents away from an immigrant being pursued by the federal authorities, Kash Patel wrote on social media. The authorities said that earlier this month, Judge Dugan directed an undocumented immigrant through a side door in her courtroom while the agents waited in a public hallway to apprehend him. A statement issued on behalf of Judge Dugan late Friday stated that she will defend herself vigorously and looks forward to being exonerated. She has hired a former federal prosecutor to represent her, and blah, 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 committed herself to the rule of law, principles of due process for her entire career as a lawyer and judge. Insanely bold move, so much so that I'm not sure I believe that's what happened, to
Yeah.
intentionally misdirect, or excuse me, to send him through a side door while they waited in the again the hallway to apprehend him. It feels a little Buster Keaton.
I mean, if that's true, cool. This is what people should be doing. If you want to actually resist what's happening under this Trump administration, like actually resist it, that involves breaking laws. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, obviously it's really upsetting and really worrying. And I think also, again, we often talk about not just like the news, but what's the public's response to the news is just as interesting and informative. And it has been very disturbing to me, the manufactured consent coming from like the right, Groyper class and right-wing pundits celebrating this as if it's just a good thing. These fucking woke activist judges, because you can just make up words now. And yeah, yeah, like you said, the pendulum always swings back. So anybody who's excited about this is woefully naive and fucking stupid.
Oh wait, do they have the video? Can we see the video? Oh fuck yeah. Okay, okay. Hold on. This is holy shit. Okay, okay. I'm so excited. The thumbnail was awesome. Okay.
Is he wearing a GoPro?
I'm not sure.
I think he's got a GoPro on his helmet.
Hey guys, what's going on?
I'm being detained by these guys.
Okay.
I was trying to walk back.
John
My,
intoxication and Bernadette the bartender.
Okay.
We were very nice and calm, and then we started. You're being detained. I'm being attacked. What's your name? Being attacked. You're being detained. Okay. Being attacked. Its objection would be to stop resisting because it's an additional attack. Being attacked. Being attacked. Your name is. What's the problem? I'm being attacked. I'm being attacked. No, you're not.
His pants have fallen down.
Yeah, but here's no. What's your first name? You're being detained right now. There's dope in here? No. Okay. Where's your wallet at? What is your first name? I've been This is a very simple question. What is your name? Yeah, but I'm also That's not my question. That's great. I am too. What is your name though? Who am I talking to? Is it John? Is it Robert? What is your name? I'm an American, man. I don't understand what that means. I'm an American. Yeah.
He's trying to pull his pants up.
Hey, you got any weapons on you? Yeah.
We live in a police state.
Basically 1984 there. Wait, what anti-Semitic slurs did he say? I couldn't pick that
hold
out.
on.
It
Yeah.
wasn't a great video, but
Oh, it's a great video.
yeah, Haley Joel Osment has issued a fulsome apology after police body cam footage from his recent arrest showed him using disgraceful language. The 37-year-old former child actor was picked up on Tuesday by authorities in the Mammoth Mountain Ski Resort in Mammoth Lakes, California, and charged with public intoxication and cocaine possession. Following Osment's arrest, police body cam footage was obtained by the New York Post. In it, the Sixth Sense star is seen using hostile language with the arresting officer, calling them a fucking Nazi. Once in the patrol car, he can be heard hurling an anti-Semitic slur at the officer. I love how they keep saying his credits in it. The Pay It Forward actor has since apologized in a statement for his behavior. I'm absolutely horrified by my behavior. Had I known I used this disgraceful language in the throes of a blackout, I would have spoken up sooner. Osment shared with People magazine, the past few months of loss and displacement have broken me down to a very low emotional place. From the bottom of my heart, I apologize to absolutely everyone that this hurts. What came out of my mouth was nonsensical garbage. I've let the Jewish community down and it devastates
okay.
me.
Yeah.
You use the K word?
Yeah.
Oof, that's not great.
No, that's a classic racist one that you probably can't
Yeah.
recover from.
That is so Randy Marsh, though. You called him a Nazi, then you use the K word. For those listening, his pants keep falling down to like his knees. He's like in a parking lot. He's wearing a snowboarding helmet with a GoPro on top. And he keeps saying, I'm an American.
I didn't know his house got burned down in the California fires. So many other people who do not have his funds had their houses burned down and
Yeah.
didn't have to melt down like this.
Yeah, exactly. I like him. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
You know, you hate to see it happen to anyone aside from James Woods. It was funny when it happened to James Woods.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, I don't have anything to say to that other than don't let your children become film stars because this is all roads lead to this.
Can you imagine being on body cam footage if you're arrested for public intoxication? It's got to be
Oh
you
God.
the lowest. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You never want to see that footage.
Yeah. For someone who was supposedly on cocaine, he's not doing too great.
No. He wasn't
He
doing
probably
it
talked
wasn't
himself out of it.
clearly wasn't yeah, it wasn't very good cocaine. But you know, he hasn't worked in a long time, so maybe he can't afford the best shit anymore. I mean, I've had
He
some
was
blackouts
not this one in.
yeah. I've had some blackouts in my day, but I've never had to apologize to for letting down the Jewish community before, so that's good.
This has been Vote for All Seasons. If my bet is correct, we will not have a new Pope by this next episode. This is Dan.
If my bet is correct, I think that's true, but I hope it's not a year. And this has been Ben.
And we'll have Andrew back next week. Thanks for listening. Like, share, subscribe. Talk to you soon.